Welcome once again to Lynda Rose. And boy, has she got a busy weekend coming. We must talk about that. Come on, Lynda, fill us in.
Well, it's a summit meeting for She Leads UK, which is a group that was started last year. Now, this goes back a little bit of history here. She Leads America was started, I don't know, 3, 4 years ago by a lady called Liz Doyle, who felt the Lord telling her to draw together Christian women in the United States in leadership, in ministry. And they're very high powered over in the States. They've got the most amazing ladies who come from all walks. So people in ministry leading churches, people in Senate, in politics, people in the media, very high powered, lots of the hosts of these big, celebrity TV shows who are Christian, believe it or not. It's a different ball game over there to over here. But anyway, it really took off over in the States. And Liz and her advisory team began to feel the Lord was calling them to set up something similar here in the UK. So last year, for the first time, they held what's called a summit in Windsor Castle and invited women in leadership in the UK to go along. Now it's limited to something like 50 people because the number of people you can have attending any events in the castle is actually quite low. So it was there were a lot of the American ladies over, and I guess probably about 30 um, of us from the UK who came together. And from that, it really took off. And so this is our first year going solo when Sheely's UK is holding a similar event, but still very much supported by our American sisters. If this was a male thing, it would be brethren, but I'm not quite sure what to call it when it's women. But our American sisters will be joining us, and it's a similar event to honor women in leadership over here. But it's designed to be a massive encouragement to just carry on. And it's women in every sort of ministry, every sort of calling. So we too have got people in active church ministry, in politics, in the media, in all sorts of initiatives, all doing what they felt called by the Lord to do. So it's bringing all these women together to really actively support and encourage each other. And it's a brilliant event actually, Rodney. So really looking forward to it.
There you go. Well, from the uplands, the sunny uplands of this weekend, we go to the Slough of Despond because all is not well in our dear nation. And Sir Keir of the Starmer variety is not doing us good, in many people's opinion, and especially regarding to Europe. People are actually standing up and saying it's treason. Now, the law would not define it as that, no doubt. But I tell you what, it comes as close as it can be. There we are with our electorate saying one thing, and by stealth, he's crept in behind and is clearly going to go back into Europe.
It does indeed feel like that. It seems like a very underhand way of getting us back into Europe. I mean, he all sorts of things on the table now. Trade deals, he says, and a defense treaty, he says. But the practical effect seems to be that it has put the UK back in the European Union, but without any of the voting rights that we had before. So we just have to accept EU rules. So it really does seem the worst of all worlds. And of course, he hasn't got a mandate from the electorate to do this. And yet he's just steamrolled it ahead because it's in our own interests. Well, please define that, Sakir, because actually the electorate, we thought it wasn't in our own interest to stay in Europe. And certainly this development is not in our interests. And there are a lot of very, very unhappy fisherman at the moment because he's given away our fishing rights.
Well, he's given away our rights all the way through. It always amuses me, and I've got to put be honest and say, no, I was glad to get out, even though it would cost us a lot of money from our businesses in the UK, of Europe. But having known a number of MEPs, and they tell me what really goes on there, and I ask this for people say, oh no, we should stay in Europe. And being in Europe, you think I would be on that side, but no way, the more I learn. And I ask people, look, do you believe in democracy? And everybody says, yes, of course. Well, hang on, where's the democracy in the European Union? You can't vote them out. You can't even vote them in. Oh, well, what about the MEPs? They've got no teeth at all. And it amazes me that the thoughtful, well-educated people are the majority of the group that want to stay. Oh, dear me.
Yes, it is disturbing. I mean, like you, I actually voted to come out of Europe because I felt we'd lost our sovereignty, because we become subjected to EU rules. And as you say, the bureaucrats completely unelected, but they're imposing all these rules. Well, no, in the UK, we should be acting in our own interests. And certainly in terms of defence, too, we should be acting to defend the British Isles. But now we're even talking about having this joint defence policy, which will put our armed forces under the control of European powers. And, they're not always very well disposed to us, trying to put it as neutrally as I can, Rodney. And this is actually, I think, endangering us.
Well, I can go back 70 years and this event happening 70 years ago, and us coming along to Germany and saying, oh, you're part of the European bit. We'll give you carte blanche with the rest of them. I mean, it's frightening, Lynda.
It is. Makes you wonder where we're going, doesn't it, Rodney?
Well, look, from a Christian point of view, does it matter whether you're Brexit or anti-Brexit? Does it really matter?
I think one of the major problems with being in Europe is that we uh, came under European rules, and a lot of those are very explicitly anti-Christian. And the way that Europe is set up, it flies in the face of Christian values. So, yes, I think it matters very much whether we are a part of Europe or not. And in fact, we're not doing too well here in the UK at the moment when it comes to upholding our Christian values. But let us not forget that this country is founded on Christian belief. It is founded on the values that are in the Bible. And we need to recover those values because it's those values that actually made us strong. And we've become immeasurably weakened since we started to push them into the background and try and reframe our values and align ourselves with the sort of thinking that's going on in so many other countries. No, we need to recover what it means to be British, to recover the values that underpin our democracy, our society, and we need to stand on those values. So it matters hugely, Rodney, I think.
Right, I agree absolutely. Listen, we've got to move on to the assisted suicide bill that keeps coming back at various stages along the road. But this next stage is the one really. We've got to get our Christian values in now. It is urgent. And of course, Esther Ransom has kicked this off
Hmm.
and used her eminent career. I used to get not the best of reports from about Esther, and one day I was called to do an interview with her. I thought, well, I'm not really looking forward to this. Well, I'll tell you what, she came over very strongly as a campaigner and a really nice person. And I was quite shocked from what I'd heard previously and what I'd found out for myself. So It's easier to judge people, I suppose, without talking to them. And she's in a very special, not an envious position at the moment with the cancer problem.
Mm.
And, you can have sympathy, but there are people out there that are activists and that are pushing this one and maybe encouraging her as well to go down the line she's adopting. But if you look at every nation, and I say every nation that's gone down this route, it's the thin end of the wedge again. And, when children now who are on the spectrum, maybe with autism, are saying in Canada, let's mention names, and also in Holland,
Mm.
oh, well, do you think you're doing society any good staying with us? Consider what you should do. You're not normal. And lo and behold, the suicide takes place. It's horrible.
I think it's utterly tragic, Rodney, especially when you mention the young people with autism and depression who, yeah, I mean, there are quite a few cases now of them having assisted suicide, euthanasia, however you want to describe it. And that seems unbelievably tragic because they need help. And of course, we all know, when you feel down, you might feel, oh, I want to end it all. But equally, we know that when situations change, those feelings of wanting to die go. And this is so common with people who have suicidal ideation, as they call it. And actually, to support them in ending their lives at a time when they're vulnerable is so far removed from compassion. It's just completely off the scale. We should never be encouraging them to end it all. We should be encouraging them to have life and to have it better. We should be helping them. And it's so unbelievably sad when this happens to a young person because there's nobody there to stand alongside them and bring them out into that better place. And okay, if someone has autism, yes, it is a bad condition. There are so many bad conditions in life, Rodney. None of us are perfect, to be perfectly honest. Which had a bit of an oxymoron there, but you know what I mean. We all need help at times, and these young people especially need help. And a child, the youngest case we've had so far is 7 years old. How can a child have the remotest idea of what they are choosing when they say, I want to end my life? No, this is wrong at every level.
What is going on behind the scenes? I've mentioned activism going on behind the scenes. Is it the same here? That somebody's got an agenda and it's not a godly agenda?
I think that's an extremely interesting question, Rodney. And it's probably a highly complex answer to that. I mean, there are obviously some activists who are genuinely feeling that it is horrific to see someone in extremis in pain, wanting to die, and that they should be helped. But equally, you do wonder if, this whole climate activism these days, that the world is overpopulated, so we need to cull the population to bring it into a more manageable level. You even find that there are some of the extreme climate activists who want to eradicate the human race because we are somehow harming creation. Now, I don't know, is this going on behind this as well? I really don't know. I suspect, as I say, it's a complex of answers.
Hmm. Well, things to pray about certainly there. And when we chat, friends and neighbours, um, sometimes we're a bit too timid in that, oh, we don't upset that person. But there are ways of saying things without upsetting them and presenting another point of view. Because one person's point of view, whether it be pro or against, is important in the end. So don't hide the proverbial lie under a bushel, I suppose. Which leaves us on, my goodness me. Another problem we have is STIs. It's gone berserk. It's approaching 500,000 by the time we get the present. Well, it was 400 and odd thousand in 2023, and it's
Yeah.
not got any better.
No, it's going up every year. I mean, I think the 2023 figures, it was a 5% rise on the year before. So we're still obviously waiting for the 2024 figures. Um, but on the current trajectory, yes, it really is epidemic level with STIs. And the highest number of infections are between the 14 to 25 age group, which is, it's all these young people, the kids that have been targeted in schools with sex ed, teaching them to be safe. Where do they get that from? It's clearly not teaching them to be safe. But we are seeing the fruits of our policies to be non-judgmental and to acknowledge that we are all sexual beings with a right to have sex without any kind of constraint. This is the message that has been peddled to young people for at least the last couple of decades, but it goes back to the 1960s actually. This is what happens.
Sex
People,
education is a joke, let's be honest, in many schools, because they're not saying ever, don't consider what would happen if you do. Let's just hold back and think about things. They're now teaching people how to avoid strangulation in a sexual act. It's a joke.
well, it's actually again, non-fatal strangulation is a criminal offence. And yet they are now producing guides, which hasn't actually been printed, it was vetoed at the last minute. But they put this forward in, I think it was Wales, to teach kids the need for consent in strangulation during sex and how to perform it safely. Well, there is no way on God's earth that you should be promoting an act that is a criminal offence to children, and because actually it's not safe. And people get understandably desperately upset. Well, women get desperately upset when this is done to them. It is very good that it was actually vetoed, so it didn't actually make its way in to the sex ed program. But personally, I find it horrific that anybody can even have contemplated incorporating this in the first place. You know what? How can they teach young people what is basically perversion and criminal activity and say that this is good? This is not keeping them safe. This is normalizing something that should not be normalized.
One has to say, of course, in schools and in academia generally, we've got this level now of total progressiveness and liberalness, and it's completely got out of control. And it's not just our country, but other countries seem to do something about it. We don't. We let it carry on. Again, it's up to us to say something. It's all right, you and me can say something, but it's got to be from the general public, even from home, to give the right perspective on these things. Because home life, as we know in Britain now, you've got more than 50% of it broken by divorce. So is it any surprise that we get feral children, as an example? Children without standards, and they go to school getting, well, learn the thing the wrong way. Think back to the days when RE, religious education, or whatever they called it in previous decades, that's gone by the board now.
Mm.
You hardly get assemblies, never mind RE lessons, and it's been replaced by sex ed.
Yes, it's I actually think that we are massively failing our children. And you hear about these terrible statistics and you hear about knife crime, you hear about all the rest of it. I just find it heartbreaking that we have not looked after them properly. and taught them properly. But you know what, Rodney? One thing that I found really encouraging in recent days are all the stats coming out recently about young people who are turning to Christianity, buying Bibles, not because anybody's actually going out and preaching to them, but amazingly, they are doing this themselves. Now, that to me says there is such a deep spiritual hunger there. And these young people now are looking for answers because they know that modern society, to be blunt, stinks. And they don't want to have a part of it. And they're looking. So I do have hope. But I feel that our generation and, the generations just under us, we have so massively failed the kids. It's not their fault, it's our fault. And we need to urgently put this right and start to teach them so that they really are kept safe.
Safe on our streets, we move into the fear that's on our streets. It's palpable. People don't go out at night anymore. Mum has to accompany children to an evening event, whereas in the past it's get on that bus, see you at 10. It's all changed. The fear is appalling. Fear of knifing, fear of robbery, especially mobile phone robbery. You cannot walk the streets, and people say, "Oh, where's the policeman?" Good point. We need plod back on the streets. But we need more than that. We need a society where it's safe. We've not got it, have we?
We haven't. And just as you're speaking, it reminds me of back in the day when I was a little girl, about 4 years old, being sent by my mother to the corner shop to buy bread. And I can remember toddling backwards and forwards on one morning about 3 times because she said, "Go and ask what sort of bread they've got today," and then go and ask, but all these questions. And it was just to keep me busy. But the point is that you could do that with kids back then, and you knew that they would be absolutely 100% safe. That's what we need, Rodney. We need our streets to be safe, for the kids to be able to walk out. We need to be able to actually leave our doors unlocked. None of us would dare leave our doors unlocked these days.
Yeah,
We,
it's gone outrageous. In fact, we've just got a report from one of our correspondents just northwest of Manchester, in a very good area. Not exactly Leafy Glade, but it's a good area. And they've had a great incoming with legal and illegal immigrants, whereby the teachers have to go to the school gates to hand the kids over in person to their parents.
Mm.
That's how bad it's got. And some roads are no-go areas in the daytime, never mind the night. And what do the local authorities do? Well, they do something sensible, like two schools in this area had vacant houses that basically were occupied by the caretaker of the school. And they've put some immigrants, about a dozen in each one, on school premises.
Mm.
Now, that is unbelievable.
Yes, it does. It's beyond unwise, certainly. And again, what I come back to is that we no longer understand compassion. We no longer, as a society, understand tolerance, which means that we have lost the capacity to make sound judgments in how to act. It is not compassion to just welcome a potential wolf into your home. That is endangering your family. And one doesn't want to make remarks that will stir up trouble. Because again, I think if the authorities were doing their job properly, there wouldn't be any need for people to rise up and take the law into their own hands. And of course, that should never happen. What we need as a country to recover accurate perception. We need to defend and look after our own people, and then to, of course, we should help people in trouble. But we seem to have lost the ability to actually discern who is in trouble and who is not in trouble. An Iranian attack on a planned attack, I believe, on the Israeli embassy. And it came out in the press that these three Iranians had come in as illegal immigrants into this country. Two had come in on boats, and one had come in on a lorry. And they had obviously come in with intent to pursue these sorts of activities against Israeli networks, whatever, in this country. We allowed them in because we were being compassionate to help them. You know, I'm sorry, but as a country, we have got to exercise proper discernment. We have got to stop this invasion of illegal immigration because it's actually exposing us to harm. We've got to recover the right way of understanding and of looking after our own country, and then we can help those in need outside. But we must stop this faux compassion, this faux tolerance that prioritizes these supposed needs of others that are not verified over the protections of our own people.
From the legal point of view, and you're a legal eagle for many years. Having said this, can I be bold enough to suggest the following? That with our present government, particularly, but hitherto with other governments of different colours, the law, oh, let's pass a new law, that'll solve the problem. The law has overtaken justice. We've forgotten justice. We just want another law, a magic wand, and it'll all be well again. It isn't.
What I think we need to come back to the fact is that Britain has always been, historically, a free country. Everything has been legal unless it was expressly illegal. Now we are coming to a position where pretty well everything is illegal unless it's expressly said by certain people to be legal. So it's a complete reversal of looking at things, and it is making us, moving us dangerously close to a totalitarian state. We need to reverse that. We need to recover true freedom for our people that is based on respect and care for everyone. We need to respect individual human rights. And an Englishman's home, years ago, it was an Englishman's home was his castle. And that whole idea that once you're in your home, you're in an inviolable place where your family was safe, you were safe, and this worked for the good of society. Again, this is being eroded now with the state getting these terrible interventions into people's home, constant surveillance of what people are doing. You're all going to have a smart meter. People breaking down doors to fit smart meters. And of course, there's this eruption today of people now being given compensation because of what was done to them. It's a complete reversal of all our understanding and our approach to life and society and law that once kept this country on course and that did make us strong, and that was based on genuine respect and care for everyone and genuine tolerance for everyone.
Well, we've got some breaking news finally that's happening as we speak on this recorded programme, and that is Sir Sadiq Khan has decided in his wisdom that we should be marijuana positive in London.
Mm.
Now, he's already ruined the capital. We've just had, again, one of our correspondents who actually used to live in the northeast side of London. not been there for 10 years. She's come back. No, she's rushed back, couldn't wait to get out. It is awful, Rodney, what's happened to the capital. Well, we know it is. Used to be in the top 5 capitals of the world for centuries. And now we've slipped out of that. It's dirty. It's dangerous. And is it a consequence of who's in charge? I believe it is. And if he carries on his drive to make everybody stop instead of driving through these various zones at ludicrous speeds, unless he stops coming out with these wonderful ideas. And believe you me, we know a lot about cannabis in Spain. It grows wild here. And I can't tell you, but well, I will tell you the number of employees I have sacked that have come full of cannabis. They're on a low, I don't call it a high anymore, and they cannot function. And they cost their own jobs and other people's jobs. Won't have it because you're not the same person. Yeah, it's a gateway drug. That's only another challenge of it, but it destroys life psychotically. And we've seen it so often. And he wants to open the door. Oh, we've had this scientific evidence. What's behind it all? I'll tell you in another statement he made at the same time. It's because the ethnic minority part of our population is being unfairly treated. Well, they shouldn't be smoking cannabis then until they're out of their minds. But this is where we are in London. The question I have, put your crash helmet on now, Lynda. Is this yet another Muslim problem that is so prevalent in the United Kingdom? We have more Muslim MPs than ever in Westminster. We have areas where Sharia law is played out, and we've just let it happen. Now, there are lots of good Muslims, but there are a good number of bad ones that want to overtake our nation. That's not me saying that, it's them. We've got to be wise as serpents, harmless as doves. But if we're not using our discernment in all this, and we're not, and letting our politicians get away with it by simply opening doors, perhaps we as a nation deserve what we get. Now, do you want to lie down before answering that question?
It's a question that functions at so many different levels. I'm hard put to know where to jump in, Rodney. But I think my immediate response is that I don't know what data Sadiq Khan is looking at, but there is very clear evidence now that marijuana is psychologically damaging. It damages the brain development. It has huge repercussions for personality development too. It is very clearly established now by scientific data that cannabis is not this gentle drug that just makes people feel good. It actually has enormous and very damaging repercussions psychologically, emotionally. It does open the way to harder drug use, but it also opens people up to mental health problems, and that is very well detailed now. There's been a lot of investigation into it, so that Sadiq Khan can put this forward on the grounds that it's safe. Just, well, words fail one. It is not safe. It is highly dangerous, and his justification for that, saying that, well, it's unfairly targeting certain ethnic groups. Well, as you just said, Rodney, they shouldn't be smoking cannabis. That's just the bottom line. If various ethnic groups are showing much greater use of cannabis, well, I'm sorry, we cannot accommodate our laws and social practice just to make it okay for them. This is a dangerous drug. that is only going to further expose our young people to harm. And it must not be normalized. It must not be promoted. It mustn't just be given to them as a kind of alternative. We've had such a fuss in recent years about tobacco, haven't we? Everyone's got to stop smoking because it produces lung cancer and all the rest of it. Well, I'm sorry, you cannot then just say, okay, we'll stop this evil drug tobacco and we'll stop the evils of alcohol. But hey ho, we'll give everybody cannabis, which is, actually the long-term effects are equally as dangerous as tobacco with lung cancer because the mental effects of cannabis are very, very well established.
And our friend Sadiq Khan, he's got quite a few years to go yet. How do we judge him? Should we judge him? How do we make sure he doesn't get up to the ultimate, which seems to be turning London, that now has 37% Caucasian whites in its population, the rest are not, into a capital city we can no longer be proud of?
If I knew the answer to how we stop that, Rodney, I might be
The next mayor.
yes. No, I think his policies have been extremely damaging, and one does have to question what his motivation is in all of this because they are so demonstrably harmful to London, the capital city of the United Kingdom. So I don't know. An even more worrying prospect would be if he went back into mainstream politics and became our prime minister. Uh, you know, I don't know. I don't wish to be too political, but it is worrying the policies that he has brought in to London, and oh, it has changed the character of the city quite definitely. So I don't know where we go with this. I know a lot of people are moving out of London now, and I find that really sad because, when I was much younger, I used to love going into London. There was a vibrancy about it, and it was fun, and it was just good. It's too busy. It's always too busy, but it was all happening there. It was great. And now you go into London, and I don't know. There's to me, a kind of depressed feel over it all, and it's grimy. And it's not as busy as it used to be. The roads aren't as busy as it used to be because, of course, people can't drive there very easily now. You get these horrible charges and everything. But it has lost that beating heart that used to be there, that made it so much fun back in the day when we were younger.
Yeah, and it can be pointed to quite a number of other cities, especially the city centres. So times have changed, and this comes with older age, of course. We all look back to the halcyon days, but I don't think that's it. People are now realizing that society has radically changed. So we need a radical change back to not the old days, but can we call them the new days, based on Judeo-Christian principles, because it ain't worked. You've had your chance, Mr. and Mrs. Progressive, and it does not work for you. It does not work for your kids because there are consequences. But there's also forgiveness in the Christian
Mm.
message. That's for everyone, from whatever color, creed, etc. And maybe we should be concentrating on that a little bit more. We've doom and gloom today. It's like the old street preach everybody used to laugh with his sandwich board. The end is nigh. Some people actually are saying, in truth, yeah, it's we're getting there. But at least, having read the last page, that is joy to the Christian.
Yes, we can never go back, Rodney. You're absolutely right. But we could go forward into something better if we now recover our faith, our identity. Yeah, onwards.
Onwards and upwards. Never mind this onwards and sideways bit. We'll go onwards and upwards. Like Lynda, thank you so much again.
Thank you. Been a joy to see you, Rodney.